Alexei Harlamoff, also known as Alexei Harlamov or Alexei Kharlamov, was a Russian painter celebrated for his luminous portraits, especially of women and children, and for his refined, poetic treatment of light and texture. A master of delicate realism and emotional subtlety, Harlamoff bridged the classical academic style of the 19th century with the emerging aesthetic sensibilities of fin de siècle Europe. His work, marked by grace, warmth, and technical excellence, found great success across Russia, France, and Western Europe during his lifetime. Alexei Harlamoff was born on October 18, 1840, in the Saratov Governorate of Russia, into a humble family of serfs. His early artistic talent was evident from childhood, and when his family was emancipated, he pursued his passion for art in earnest. Recognizing his potential, local patrons helped him gain admission to the Imperial Academy of Arts in St. Petersburg in 1854, where he studied under the academic masters who shaped a generation of Russian artists. At the academy, Harlamoff quickly distinguished himself as a gifted portraitist and colorist. His early works already demonstrated a sensitivity to tone and atmosphere, hallmarks that would define his mature style. In 1868, he was awarded a gold medal for excellence in painting, earning him the right to travel abroad at the Academy's expense, a privilege reserved for the most promising graduates. In 1869, Harlamoff left Russia for Paris, which was then the vibrant center of the European art world. There he continued his studies at the École des Beaux-Arts under Léon Bonnat and associated with leading artists of the time. He immersed himself in the French academic tradition, absorbing its emphasis on draftsmanship, realism, and idealized beauty. Paris profoundly influenced his style, guiding him toward a refined, cosmopolitan sensibility. The Franco-Prussian War, 1870-1871, temporarily disrupted his studies, prompting him to relocate to London, where he painted portraits and genre scenes. His stay in England exposed him to the British portrait tradition, which emphasized character and mood, elements that would later appear in his own compositions. When he returned to Paris after the war, his technique had matured. His palette became softer, his brushwork smoother, and his compositions more contemplative. Throughout the 1870s and 1880s, Harlamoff achieved considerable success in France and beyond. He exhibited regularly at the Paris Salon, where his works were warmly received by critics and collectors. He also participated in international exhibitions in Vienna, London, and Munich, earning medals and distinctions that secured his reputation as an accomplished portrait painter. Harlamoff's portraits of young women and children became his signature subject. They were celebrated for their tender expressiveness, luminous skin tones, and meticulous attention to texture, particularly in rendering fabrics, lace, and hair. His sitters were often depicted in soft natural light, their faces glowing with a serenity that seemed to capture both innocence and introspection. This emotional subtlety distinguished him from more rigid academic portraitists. He developed friendships with influential figures in the art world, including the French painter Léon Bonnat, the Russian realist Ivan Kramskoy, and the celebrated portraitist Leonid Pasternak. He was also part of the circle surrounding the Russian writer Ivan Turgenev, who introduced him to Parisian intellectual society. Through Turgenev, Harlamoff painted portraits of notable literary and artistic figures, which enhanced his prestige. Harlamoff's artistic style blended Russian realism with the refined elegance of French academic painting. While his early works reflected the formal training of the Imperial Academy, precise composition, classical balance, and controlled technique, his mature period was characterized by a luminous softness that gave his subjects a dreamlike quality. Light played a central role in his work. He mastered the art of depicting the way light caresses skin, fabric, and hair, imbuing his figures with a sense of warmth and vitality. His delicate color harmonies, often dominated by creams, roses, and golds, created an atmosphere of gentle intimacy. This attention to tonality reflected the influence of French artists such as William-Adolphe Bouguereau and Jean-Baptiste Gros, yet Harlamoff's paintings retained a distinctly personal and emotional depth. His portraits were often of anonymous peasant girls, young women, and children, rather than society figures. Through these models, he explored themes of purity, innocence, and quiet reflection. Unlike some of his contemporaries who emphasized sensuality, Harlamoff's approach was chaste and contemplative, focusing on the inner life of his subjects. This restraint gave his art a timeless grace and sincerity that resonated with viewers across cultures. Among his most admired paintings are Young Girl with Flowers, Portrait of a Young Peasant, The Little Violinist, and Girl with a Veil. These works exemplify his mastery of light and texture, his tender characterization, and his impeccable technique. His portraits often combined classical composition with a modern sensibility, balancing formality with emotional immediacy. Many of his works were purchased by Russian collectors and exhibited in private collections throughout Europe. His paintings found particular favor among the French and British bourgeoisie, who appreciated his refined, sentimental vision. Several of his works were also acquired by members of the Russian nobility and intelligentsia, who regarded him as one of the foremost Russian artists working abroad. By the late 19th century, Harlamoff was an established figure in the Parisian art scene. He became a member of the Société des Artistes Français and exhibited regularly at the Salon until the early 1900s. His success allowed him to live comfortably and maintain a steady stream of commissions. Despite the rise of Impressionism and Modernism, which transformed the Paris art world in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Harlamoff remained true to his classical approach. While this adherence to tradition gradually made his work appear conservative to some critics, his technical mastery and sincerity continued to attract admirers. In his later years, Harlamoff's health declined, and he painted less frequently, though he never abandoned his craft entirely. He lived quietly in Paris, devoted to his art and his close circle of friends and patrons. He died there in 1925, at the age of 84. Though his name faded somewhat in the early 20th century amid the rise of avant-garde movements, renewed interest in academic and realist painting has brought Harlamoff's work back into focus. Today, his paintings are prized by collectors and featured in galleries and museums worldwide, including the State Tretyakov Gallery in Moscow and the Russian Museum in St. Petersburg. His works frequently appear in international art auctions, where they command significant attention for their craftsmanship and beauty. Harlamoff's art endures as a testament to the power of quiet emotion and technical perfection. His portraits, suffused with humanity and light, reveal an artist deeply attuned to both the external grace and the inner life of his subjects. In an age of artistic revolution, Harlamoff stood as a bridge between the old and the new, a painter who captured the eternal poetry of the human face with unparalleled tenderness. Alexei Harlamoff's life and art represent the synthesis of Russian soulfulness and French refinement. From humble beginnings in rural Russia to acclaim in the salons of Paris, his journey reflects the triumph of talent, discipline, and sensitivity. His portraits, radiant with light and feeling, continue to move viewers with their timeless beauty. Though he lived through an era of rapid artistic change, Harlamoff remained steadfast in his devotion to classical ideals and emotional truth. An artist whose legacy endures not in grand gestures, but in the quiet radiance of human grace.